Okay. All right. I believe we are recording. Hi. Okay. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I see people coming in. Welcome to a complete guide to getting started in voiceovers. My name's Lisa Fisicaro. I'm the Events and Production Manager here at the VoiceOver Network. And let's see. So I see folks coming in. Let me just open up the chat box. And if you guys can hear me, please let me know. Let's put everyone here. Great. Wonderful. I see some folks coming in. Great. Okay, so welcome, everybody. We are in week 3 of a complete guide to getting started in voiceovers. This is the home studio week, and it's a whole lot of fun. Lots of fantastic stuff to learn and get yourself sorted with your home studio and everything you need to record from home. I introduced myself a minute ago. Just to let you know, Rachel's not going to be here today. I did put that in the email for you guys. Today's webinar is all about home studios, and we have the one and only Roger Woods with us today, and he's going a wonderful presentation for you. So if you can, don't forget the hashtag Vaughn Workshop, so we keep that going. I know if you got any questions or anything about the previous couple of weeks, certainly send us an email and we can get you guys started. Okay, look, there's a message here first from Lynn. I'm really sorry, but I can't stay. I'm looking forward to watching it, but we'll have to do it on catch-up later. Sorry, see you next week. All right, Lynn, if you've got any questions about home studios or anything, let us know. But yes, you can certainly watch on the catch-up. Right. Hey, Roger, how you doing?
I'm very well, Lisa. How are you? I don't know about you, but it's incredibly warm today. My booth was nice and cool until I opened the door on it.
Oh, no.
29 degrees outside here in Norfolk this afternoon, and it is, unseasonally warm, although this time last year we were basking in an Indian summer, weren't we?
Yes, it is. I know. Well, the lead up to this week where they keep saying how warm it's supposed to be and all that, I'd love for it to happen if we could get one full week.
Well,
but that's something to talk about in home studios. How do you keep yourself cool in the summer? Yeah.
Actually, that's a very good question to start with, because you might have seen me in shot a moment ago with a pint glass. I've just raided the ice maker in our fridge, and it's full up with water. Actually, that's not a particularly good drink to drink during the winter months or during the summer months. During the winter months, that would be a great drink to drink, because it's an opposite action. If you drink something cold, your body will warm up. If you drink hot, your body will cool down. So I also have my utterly amazing mug full of tea. So there you go. So we'll switch between the two. Okay. So
yes, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your background, Roger. That would help out the folks. I did tell them a little bit in some emails, but hey.
It was all true. Absolutely.
When did it all begin?
Every word of it was true. Well, I can do a very plausible impression of Rachel, I think, every now and then. But my background, broadcast journalist, broadcaster initially. I started a long time ago with a passion for radio and also taking anything electrical apart. And I got into hospital radio after hearing an advert on what was then Capital Radio 194 in London, that dates me automatically. It was a community spot when they used to do community spots, and I got involved in hospital radio, and really I never looked back. It's a great place to start. That's something for you guys to think about here with some of the folks who are starting out. Absolutely. So from hospital radio, I went to my local commercial radio station when commercial radio stations were literally their own entities. They weren't interfered with by anybody else. So I worked for a very small community, a local radio station called Invicta FM, which then became Invicta Radio, that became Invicta FM, that then became something else before it became Heart, before it became a part of Global.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In the interim period, I also worked for British Forces Broadcasting overseas for about 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for the BBC, and latterly I am a marketeer, communications sort of stroke. I've got an interest in that, as well as being a voice artist. And along the way, I've also done talking books for the blind. I've done all sorts of other bits and pieces that uses my voice to entertain other people.
And were some of those voluntarily? Did you starting out?
Yeah, no, the Link Up, which is a community-based talking book. Actually, it's a talking newspaper. Is about 20, 30 miles south of where I am now. And I did that every Wednesday for about 3 years.
That sounds great.
A little tiny office in one of the schools in the town. And then we have 4 or 5 of us. We'd each have our own microphone, no headphones in those days. And we'd have literally articles that have been clipped out of the local newspaper that have been highlighted with a magic marker or whatever. And we'd just read what was highlighted. And that was great fun. You sit there and do it real time for about an hour and a half. And it was recorded as a linear wave on a workstation on a computer. And then it was copied. It was actually copied 280 times onto cassettes originally, and then little memory sticks, and then sent out to people who were registered with a sight problem who wanted to hear the local news.
That is really cool. That's nice. So your nerves, I mean, you had to get rid of your nerves fairly quickly. There was no time for that.
Well, having spent a long time at the BBC, where I was a drive time presenter and producer, where every word, every second of the 3 hours I was on air was speech derived. You know how to be able to speak without hesitation, pause, deviation, and in some instances repetition. So, yeah, it's a cracking start. And if you really want to hone your skills, actors do it as a byproduct of being an actor, because you have the spoken word, but also you've got obviously all the skill of being able to move around a stage, being able to keep your eye on who you're supposed to be talking to on the stage as opposed to looking out at your audience. So yeah, it's a great skill. If you can do something that hones your skill in front of the microphone that isn't necessarily for any financial gain, get the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. That's great. That's, good advice. Awesome. Okay. So I think, guys, we're just going to dive right in. Roger's got a fantastic presentation for us today. And it's an outline for all you need to know about home studios and then some. If you've got any questions, certainly type them in the corner here for us. I think we should just get started. So
absolutely. Right. So this is a presentation that may be totally different to anything you've had thus far, because I think most of the presentations have been talking heads. So it's been Lisa and Rachel and many other guests talking about the mechanics of becoming a voiceover. This is also about the mechanics of becoming a voiceover, but it has a sort of a slightly different twist to it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you, and you will see me somewhere on the screen. You'll see Lisa below it or beside it or above it, and a blue screen currently, because what we're obviously talking about today, you should be able to see. My mouse has now decided it doesn't want to work. Isn't that typical?
It's typical.
It's all right. So we're talking about home voiceover studio. Okay, here we go. If you have a studio already, if you have kit already, if you are aspiring to have kit and to have a studio, just let me know in the chat. I know there's only a couple of people in there at the moment, but if you're watching this post the record, we'll take it that you are a novice. You might have some kit, but maybe you need to sort of explore future options. So he says, and I wish my mouse wouldn't do this. There we go. The question is, what's needed to record at home? Now, some months ago, I read an article that suggested you need a microphone stand, a computer of some sort, a pair of headphones, and access to the World Wide Web. Okay, that's great. You also need some software. So they are the 6 pieces of kit you need, or 6 pieces of technology that you need to be able to record at home. Sounds simple, doesn't it?
I see 5.
You see 5. There's the software in the middle, 6.
1, 2, 3.
See?
Oh, my bad.
Got it?
You see?
There's also 6 captions at the bottom. It's a giveaway, really. But I'll let you off. You've been out in the midday sun too long,
I
haven't you?
have been.
Maybe
Thanks,
an
Roger.
American, but you're touching a touch of the old mad dogs.
I know. I'm looking for pictures. Thank you.
Right. So here we go. What's needed to record at home? A really quiet space to be creative. Now that image there, if you can see it, is basically saying the biggest source of noise is noisy neighbours. And that actual map breaks down to the purple areas. So Wales and the East Midlands happen to be particularly noisy. The West Country suffers from a lot of commercial traffic and businesses. London has huge amounts of, or the London and the South East have huge amounts of construction. And the noisiest place in Britain, if you happen to live in Westminster and City of London, move. Because it's pretty noisy. You need somewhere quiet. Now, Lisa's normally resident in Croydon. It has its moments. It can be a little bit noisy. I'm in, I wouldn't say deepest, darkest Norfolk, but I live in a quiet village. It gets noisy at rush hours. So first thing in the morning, last thing at night. The rest of the time, you could hear a pin drop. So a quiet space is needed. And we'll get on to some of the other bits that you might need to have a quiet space, because I've mentioned the fact I'm in a booth. I am in a booth. It's a metal booth, surprisingly, but I'll tell you why later. So does it matter what you record with? The answer is no, but if you get the right gear, you're on the road to success. If you buy wrong, no gear is wrong. If you buy gear that is not up for the job, you will be chopping and changing throughout the process. Now, I haven't changed a single piece of kit in my booth for the last 5 years. Yeah, I don't know about Lisa. Lisa, no doubt the same. Hasn't touched her kit for a few years, maybe as many as 5, if not longer. So kit is all important. So let's look at some of the options. Now, we need a microphone. Remember that graphic? We need a microphone. There's 2 types of microphone. There's a USB microphone and there's an XLR microphone. Now, once upon a time, the USB option was shunned. It was, you can't possibly work with a USB microphone. For goodness sake, you need something proper. You need a big chunky microphone and you need a big cable running from it to run to a little box that sits on your desk that plugs into your computer with a USB cable. Yeah. So some of the manufacturers have cut out the middleman and gone straight for USB. So let's have a look at some of the USB options. All of these microphones are USB. The ones to avoid are the top 3 on the top row. The ones that are good for voiceover work are the bottom row, and specifically the 3 in the middle. The ones either side of that, on the left-hand side, that's a great mic. It's a great get up and go. It's a good starter mic. The one on the right is right at the top end of your budget, and budget is all important. Yeah. And to put a price on those, £99 compared to £499. They're all USB mics. The popular mics that are being used by VoiceOver Network members are the £325 Sennheiser MK4 or the Rode NT USB. Great mic. I have one on the shelf outside.
That's right. That's not bad for 125.
It's not bad from 125. You'll no doubt find it cheaper somewhere. You may even be able to pick it up even cheaper if you go to an auction site. But if you buy it on an auction site, be prepared for it not to necessarily work correctly. Best to buy new.
Buy new, yeah.
So they're USB mics. The other sorts of mics are XLR mics. A bit like the one that I'm using here. It's got a little cable running out. This one's yellow. Runs through a myriad of cables into my booth, out into my office, into a USB. Again, all these microphones are fantastic microphones, and I don't know why my mouse is refusing to, I've got things on my screen covering things. But again, like the USB mics, I wouldn't necessarily use either of the two mics with the red cross on it. There's some, I could have put a question mark by the second mic because some people will use that mic to do voiceover work, but it needs a little bit of extra oomph to get some real good value out of it, because this mic is a passive mic. There's no moving part. There's other than the diaphragm, there's no moving parts in there. There's no electronics to boost the signal. It's just the straight, flat, no nonsense microphone. Radio DJs love it, particularly in the States. The other seven mics, are all what we call condenser mics. They're powered. They've got little electric circuits inside them. They give that extra bit of beef. They provide that warmth. They provide that wonderful feeling that the mic produces. And cost-wise, well, anything from £50 to £2,000. Now, popular mics are the Aston on the top row, right at the far right. The Sontronics Orpheus at £450. Great mics, fantastic mics. You can throw maybe the Rode NT1 in as well. Popular mics amongst experienced voiceover artists are the three with a big price tag. The £800 mic is a Neumann TLM 103. It is what I have here. The next one in at £1,000 is very popular amongst voice artists in America who do those big sound trailers, you know.
Movie trailers.
Movie trailers. And it's growing popularity, actually, in just normal, general voiceover work. However, the mic needs to be worked. You need to know how to use that microphone, the Sennheiser, the stick mic. And of course, right at the far end, the £2,000 Neumann U87. It is the most ubiquitous mic there is in recording studios, the length and the breadth of the United Kingdom, Ireland, Europe, Asia, Australasia, Oceania, America, North and South, Canada, even at the North Pole. It is the mic everyone would like to aspire to. For a voiceover artist, you'd be better off with the £800 TLM 103 because that's the only polar pattern you'll be using. The polar pattern, the pickup pattern of the TLM 103 is the same polar pattern as you would use on the U87. The U87 benefits from being able to switch between other polar patterns, which you would never normally use as a voiceover artist. So 800 quid, good investment. I love my TLM 103. Beautiful mic. So there you go.
It makes you sound so rich.
It does. And for some unknown reason, I've suddenly got a frog in my throat.
Okay, take some sips. Let me read you a message here from Siggy. Hi, Siggy. The AT 2020 is exactly the mic I have been using for the last few years. Great for content creation and streaming and the like.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with it at all. And if you look back to my section on USB microphones, what's in the bottom right-hand corner? It's the same mic, yeah, but a USB version. It is a great starter mic. And in fact, my recommendation, if you're going to buy a pack, would be go to somewhere like Audio Technica, buy their studio pack, which includes the mic you've just mentioned, Ziggy, the AT 2020 or the 2035, comes with an Audient interface and a decent pair of headphones. And for 280 quid, it is a studio in a box.
Okay.
And one of our members, Karis, she's just recently built herself a studio at home. She bought that package and she does ads for McDonald's. She does ads for all the big brands at home using the AT either 2020 or 2030, depending on which mic she got in her pack. Great mic. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. If you're going to use a cable-bound mic, you're going to need an interface. And here's just a range of the many, many interfaces that are available on the market. Essentially, they take all the work away from your computer that the USB would do, and it does it in a box. So You have the options of a single channel, 2 channels, multiple channels. You have the options of having complex routing, which means you can do some weird and wonderful and lovely stuff outside of the box, but still use the box to control it. You can use the center one at the bottom, the Apollo Twin. You can have all sorts of third-party effects running in what they call as a digital subprocessor to help you with your recording. And the Apogee Quartet on the end is a 4-channel USB interface, and it is awesome. But at the price tag, it's awesome. 99 quid to £1,300. If you had to suggest to me which one I would use, because mine is on there, mine is actually the one on the bottom left. It is an Audient ID22, and it's like a mini mixer. It does everything I need to do. So I can take signals out of it and plug it into external equipment like an audio codec or an ISDN codec. And I can mix stuff. So I've got a mix headphone feed that is separate to the one that I listen to in the office, which is great. I also have a record feed, so I can set up a profile and I can switch to that profile so that when I'm recording, I know that only my voice is being captured in this microphone and only I am hearing my voice in this headphone. Or as I did yesterday, forget to switch the profile and left my speakers on full volume in the office and came in here to record a piece, and I nearly blew my neighbor off his ladder next door. But audio interfaces are very important, and you don't have to stick with those. We've got a Scarlett there, we've got a PreSonus, we've got an M Audio, there's an Avid, there is the Audient, there's the Apollo, and there's the Apogee there. There are others, Roland, Steinberg. The list goes on and on and on. You just choose one that's in your budget that you happen to quite like the look of it. But if you can with the microphones and you can with the audio interface, please, please, please get an opportunity to demo before you buy, because that's very, very important. It might not be the right kit, might not be the right mic for your voice, it might not be the right audio interface for the way you work. So we've done microphones, we've done audio interface. What about headphones? Headphones are very, very important. For those of you who are sort of very quick-witted and astute and are watching what pair of headphones I'm wearing, mine are on the bottom right of that picture. The ones at the top left are earbuds. You get them free with phones. You can buy them in the local store if you're desperate for a pair of headphones because you've forgotten to take a pair and you're about to get on a flight or a bus or a train somewhere for next to nothing. And in between it, there are a range of headphones. The most ubiquitous, again, found in many, many recording studios, are the one on the bottom right. They're Baird DT100s. The ones in the middle at on the bottom are Audio-Technica, ATH, XM40s, I think. I have a pair of those out on my desk because I have a different pair of headphones on my desk to in the booth. And the ones on the bottom right are the DT770 Pros, which is what I'm currently wearing in the studio. And I only wear headphones when I'm doing things like this or I'm doing a directed session, which we'll come to shortly. Headphones. How much do they cost? Well, you can pick them up for 99p if you really must, but they won't give you a particularly good replay or a good sound of your sound, if that makes any sense at all. They're not particularly good at 99 pence in reproducing your voice as you would like to hear it. Pay £120 for a decent pair of headphones, and with a decent mic and a decent interface, you sound like you sound. No questions asked. What do you wear, by the way?
Yeah, so the KRKs. And my
yeah, top row on the top row there.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Right on the right hand side, top row, right hand side. The Sennheisers next to them are popular. In fact, all of the microphones, all the headphones there are popular, with the exception of the earbuds. You can wear earbuds if you are prepared to spend more than £120. Actually, more like £250, because then you will get yourself a really good pair of earbuds. And yeah,
like the molded ones and the whole thing.
Molded ones, you can have the thing, but they will give you a proper rendition of how you sound. So, headphones, computers. It's the great debate. Do I have an app? Do I have an Apple? Do I have a an Apple and a Macintosh are the same thing. Do I have an Apple or do I have a Microsoft Windows computer? To be honest with you, it's purely up to your choice and what you're familiar with. It's when Macintosh launched their first computer, it was adopted by media creatives because it could do so much more than a Windows-based machine at the time. Over the millennia, or over the decades, the technology have merged. So it doesn't really matter. It's just what you feel comfortable with. I know that Lisa has got an Apple MacBook in front of her.
Yes.
I have an Apple iMac, as pictured on the screen there. That sits on my desk, and I have a MacBook Air that I travel with. I still have a Microsoft Windows computer somewhere. In fact, there's there's 4 of them in the house. Yeah. So my son has one, his partner has one, my wife has one for work. She has one for play, and there's a spare one kicking around in a box at the moment. So actually, that's 5 computers. So occasionally, I will switch back to a Windows-based computer because sometimes you might have software that doesn't necessarily run on a Mac computer, although you can make almost anything run on a Mac computer these days. So, computer, desktop or laptop, same thing applies. What do you want? Do you want to be able to cart it around? Do you want something nice and compact and quick and energy efficient that still does what you want it to do, that you can plug your USB microphone in, or you can plug in your USB interface and your other microphone into the interface? You can also, these days, record on these devices, tablets, mobiles, cells. Yeah, they are now powerful enough to be able to record, and there's some fantastic software available to run on each of the versions. If you have an Apple Mac tablet, an iPad, or an iPod, or even an iPhone, you can run an application called Twisted Wave. If you have an Android phone, there's various recording software packages you can download from the Android store. And if you're on Microsoft Windows, again, you can, because of the way the tablet is set up, you can actually run full-blown PC software on your tablet. So you've got the same access to things like Studio One or Audacity or Ocean Audio and others. So again,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So you can record on a tablet or a phone. Bear with me on that thought. Audio editing software. There you are. I've named some: Audacity, Ocean Audio, WavePad, Studio One. All of those software packages will work definitely on a desktop PC or on a laptop. Some of them will work on a tablet or mobile device. What's unique about those products is that they are all free. Yeah, you don't have to pay for any one of those pieces of software. They are free. Audacity is the mainstay of many voiceover artists. It's the one everyone gets first, and sometimes they stick with it. There are people in this business who have been doing voiceovers since computers took over from old-fashioned reel-to-reels or cassettes or digital audio tapes, who are still using Audacity today because that's what they're familiar with. Big name voiceover artists who've got big microphones, big audio interfaces, big computer setups, free software. Ocean Audio is gaining popularity because it does something called punch and roll. And if you're into narration, if you're going to do books or you're going to do long form e-learning, having punch and roll is fantastic because you can stop, go back, listen to yourself, and pick up from where the mistake was made. And it saves a lot of editing. WavePad, fantastic. That will work on any PC. It will work. It won't work on a Mac, but it will work on a PC. Actually, I think there is a Mac version of it. There is a Mac version of it. It will work on a tablet as well. And Studio One comes from PreSonus. Studio One version 4 is a lovely piece of software. It's free. I got a copy of it free with a controller I bought. Yeah, great software. So you can get it free. You can also pay, and this is what Audacity Audio looks like. Very simple layout. Remember, if you're recording voiceover, you only need to record one track. You only have one mouth. You don't need to record in stereo, so always record a mono track and at the highest possible bit rate you can. So 48 kilohertz at 24 bit, and you will be in the money, so to speak, because those settings, it captures your voice perfectly.
So when we're going back to the 48 kilowatts, kilohertz, sorry.
It feels like 48 kilowatts in here.
That's right, kilohertz. But basically these programs kind of they do all of that for you if you don't know how to program that, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Just follow. I mean, the manuals with all these software are absolutely amazing. The best thing, they're amazing, big, complicated, and they can get into a lot of detail. You're stuck. Audacity have an amazing Facebook group. Adobe Audition have an amazing Facebook group, as does Studio One, as do WavePad, as do most of the software products.
Wonderful.
Ask a question on Facebook, and if you can't find the answer on Facebook in the respective forum, go and Google because YouTube is a part of Google. Go to YouTube and type in "help with Audacity," and you can watch a little tutorial there. Some of them are a bit banal, some of them are a bit off mark, but most of them will tell you how to set it up and how to record with before you even have to open the manual. So that's free software, and this is where you get the paid stuff. And notice one thing about it: Studio One appears. You can buy Studio One and have a few more bells and whistles, but you don't need to as a voiceover artist. You don't need to buy Pro Tools. Don't let anyone tell you that you need to buy Pro Tools, because you do not need to buy Pro Tools. Pro Tools is for you if you are recording a full orchestra, a full choir with soloists, maybe two orchestras, and two soloists, because it's a multi-tracking tool. It's a fantastic piece of software, but it is way, way, way too over the top for anything a voiceover artist can do. Logic Pro is bordering on that, but it's a much better, much refined product. If you use GarageBand in Apple and Mac OS, Mojave is currently, Logic is a step up from that. If you like GarageBand, Logic is a step up. It gives you a few more bells and whistles, a few more extra little goodies, and again, it's a great product. My favorite is the one at the top right, top left, and that is Adobe Audition. According to Adobe's records, because I almost cancelled my subscription earlier this year, I've been using Adobe Audition since it became Adobe Audition 14 years ago. And I've been using its predecessor called Cool Edit for even longer. So this is my go-to one. It's the one I do absolutely everything in. You can multi-track in it. You can obviously record. You can edit. You can process. You can buy external plugins to help you with things like compression and limiting and debriefing and all those things that, you know, sometimes you may be asked to do or come up against. You know, the producer might come back to you and say, "Oh, can you take all the breaths out?" Well, actually, no, you can take all the breaths out. No, I want you to take the breaths out. Do those with tools in there. Adobe, fantastic.
Are you saying that on the free ones, those kind of add-ons are not really included?
Some of them are there, but they're rudimentary. If you go for Audacity and run it on an Apple Mac, you'll pick up all the Apple Mac audio unit processing elements. So you can EQ, you can do other bits and pieces. If you buy a Focusrite Scarlett in your pack, you get a code which will allow you to download a little compressor and a little EQ option from their Red series, which are amazing hardware mixers. They're also amazing software processors. So yes, you can, but purists will tell you that you want the audio as clean as possible. Now, if you're listening to this really carefully, you no doubt can hear a little bit of rumble in the background. That's because it is hot in here and I've got my ventilation on, drawing air out of my booth. And because the fan is not too far over, it's actually at the end of a long tunnel, and it is disconnected from the thing. It's just creating a little bit of a low rumble. I've also got the door to my booth open. I've got the door to my office open, and I've got the French windows in my cabin at the end of the garden open. So, you know, you might hear some noise like dogs wandering around.
Yeah, no, haven't heard the dogs yet. Nice.
So Adobe Audition is a great piece of software, and it's my go-to, but there are others. People like Reaper, they like Studio One. There's Ableton, there's a lot, Cubase, all sorts of different software out there. It just depends on what you learn with and where you migrate to, or maybe a friend shows you their piece of software and you like that.
Yeah.
Don't let me influence what software you get. I'm just showing you the key ones that are used in the business. So that's the ones I've shown you thus far. Right.
And
now,
what does DAW stand for?
Digital Audio Workstation.
You hear that quite a lot, so I always like to make sure we know what that means.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a generic term, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So
now,
what was before that? I don't know why my soft. There we go. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah. Remote contribution or for direction. If you're at the cusp of your voiceover career, you might not have come across this as of yet, but at some point, somebody will commission you to do some work, and they'll say, "Oh, we'd really like the client to listen to you while you're doing your recording," or can we just give you some vocal direction while you're recording? I know you're going to self-record at your end and send us the audio file, but can we just give you some direction? Now, traditionally, way back, long ago, back in time, back in the day, whichever phrase you want to use, we had something called ISDN, Integrated Services Digital Network, and it's a posh telephone line. When telephone exchanges started going digital, they suddenly realized that actually they could extend the digital bit of the exchange to the consumer's premises. So my home, your office, wherever it happens to be. And they were very clever, and they basically took a little piece of equipment that could have been shoved into the exchange and said, no, we'll screw it on the wall in your house and you can power it. You can provide the mains electricity to power that little bit of kit, and we can do something special with a piece of cable that runs between your house and our exchange. And basically it meant that instead of sending an analog wavy signal to the exchange from your phone handset, you actually sent one that looked like a whole load of dots and dashes, digital signal. Yep, noughts and ones. That opened up all sorts of things for manufacturers to go, cool, this is a bit of a revolution. We could do things with this. And apart from the fact that it was originally designed for high-speed data connections between what was then an embryonic computer business, someone jumped on the idea of sending audio over an ISDN line. So somebody came up with an ISDN codec. That's what that box is next to the ISDN sign. And for years, we have been having ISDN lines installed in our house as voiceover artists, then going to the bank manager and pleading poverty, asking them for £2, £3, £4, or maybe £5,000 to buy a box to sit on the telephone line that was also costing you somewhere in the region of £100 a month to rent, and extortionate amount to make telephone calls with. So you could stay at home and record for a studio in London, Cairo, New York, Paris, Boston, LA, Reykjavik, wherever it happened to be. And this was the liberating technology that stopped hundreds of voiceover artists spending hundreds of hours on trains, in taxis, on bikes, walking to radio studios around London, or recording studios around London, or radio studios around the UK, because they could now say, call me, and they get a quality of audio the same as you are listening to me right now. That's ISDN. It meant, though, because it's bidirectional, Joe Bloggs, or Lisa in her studio, in downtown South London, could say to me if I made a fluff while reading a script, could you just do that again for me?
Mm-hmm.
And they would record at their end. Yeah, so you didn't even have to think about recording. The technology ISDN is dead in the water. It's being pulled by British Telecom, the primary provider of it, BT Wholesale. And of course, what has taken over, of course, is broadband technology. If you don't have broadband at home, I'll be questioning how you're watching this for starters, or I suppose you could be doing it on your phone, couldn't you? The broadband has a much better bandwidth, sends more data much quicker than ISDN ever could. And using something like Skype, you can have a directed session. So again, Lisa could talk to me on Skype and tell me that I've fluffed a line. Could I read it again? Or we wouldn't necessarily use Skype to send the audio because the quality is not good. Skype is not a good medium for sending audio. So you'd record locally using one of the digital audio workstations, and you would then send them the audio afterwards in an email or WeTransfer or Dropbox or whatever happens to be. Now, Skype is not good, and with the demise of ISDN, there are some new boys on the block. The new boys on the block primarily are these: Badalgo Call, Clean Feed, Source Connect Now, Session Link Pro, and my favorite, IPDTL, for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They all do the same thing. They use the internet to create a peer-to-peer connection in high quality so that you can be directed, you can be told how to read your script, or you can read your script to the studio where they will record it, or you can record it locally, or you can record it locally and then send it via any one of those means to the studio, or you send it by email or WeTransfer. And this has been incredibly liberating because these are all software packages that you run on Google Chrome on your computer, be it a Windows or an Apple-based product.
Mm-hmm.
You can take it with you wherever you go in the world. You don't have to lug around a box the size of a small suitcase, and you don't have to find a hotel room or a hotel that's got an ISDN connection.
Right.
You just plug it in, use your Wi-Fi, and you can connect up. Atlanta 2 years ago, I did a session from my hotel room using IPDTL to a studio back in London. Yeah. They didn't know where I was, until they said to me, "Oh, have a good day. Were you doing anything exciting?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm just carrying on with my conference in Atlanta." And they went, "Oh, really?" So there you go. A great piece of technology. So remote contribution is something to think about in the future. You don't have to use it now.
It's so liberating.
Incredibly liberating. If you don't have any of that, a mobile phone with an earpiece in does the same thing. You just stick it under your headphone, have the phone on the side, the director can talk to you on a phone line into your ear, and you can still record your take locally on your door, edit it, put it into the package they want, send it as an email. Incredibly liberating.
Absolutely.
So that's
awesome.
remote contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use it often? Do you use any of these often?
No. But I was just doing some more research on the Bodalgo Call. I find that because that's one of the newer kids on the block.
Yeah. Right? Well, yeah.
Or the call factor. Yeah. But yeah, IBTDL is great.
Yep, and Session Link. Session Link Pro is a continental version of IPDTL. The Germans love Session Link Pro. The problem with all these is they don't talk to one another. They're not compatible with one another at the moment. However, one of the manufacturers there, I won't tell you which one, but it's highlighted, is using a new system called SIP.audio. And SIP.audio is what will replace your telephone number when BT pull the copper cables out of your street in the next 5 to 10 years. So you will need a SIP audio address. Nice. Yeah. So just bear that in mind. And that's actually SIP audio is how a lot of the communications behind the scenes between the exchanges takes place. It all happens digitally in SIP audio, and then it gets converted out into analog for us to be able to use it.
Sorry, Roger, are you saying SIP or ZIP?
SIP, S-I-P, Session Initiation Protocol.
Okay.
There you go.
Session Initiation Protocol. Sounds very official.
Oh, it does. It's very, very official. Right, let's go on to this. I love this bit. Hopefully
Yes.
you will as well. What does a voiceover home studio look like? Well, I can tell you that it's not going to look like this. These are our guys, our friends at VoiceOver Soho, Peter and his guys there. Lovely studio, Neumann U87, beautiful desk to sit at. You even get bottled water fresh from the tap every day.
That's right.
And behind that, you've got a nice sofa and you've got a production desk. And it is a great space to work. It is a fantastically relaxing space to work. The reality of home voiceover studios is a bit like this. These are our members' quiet spaces. You ready for this? Of course you are. Right, here we go. These are just some of the spaces that people work in and generate an income, and a sustainable income. John's a narrator. Adam's a character actor. That's Adam Durgeman, whose microphone is stuffed somewhere between his laundry, no doubt his pants and his T-shirts. Chris is a commercial guy. He's got a plastic frame and some acoustic curtains from VoiceOver Booth to go, and he records there. He's got a nice mic. He's got a U87 there.
Yeah.
Nano. Congratulations to Nano. She's just been accepted by Excellent Talent as a voice there. She's an audiobook narrator.
I was just going to say, though, if you go back to Adam, he has his laptop on top of a cardboard box.
Yeah, that says M Audio on it.
Yeah, you just don't have to necessarily have a computer desk or any of that. You can totally get connected and make it, but it is separate from inside the closet.
Yeah, but the key is that if you look at John's picture on the top right, Adam's picture top left, Chris is at the bottom, Nano's at the bottom, they are covered in furnishings.
Yeah, covered.
And that is taking the noise out of the room. That is creating the quiet space. That is stopping the reflections. That is stopping the dogs barking. Dogs, stop barking. And if you look at John's, he's got a little semicircle behind his microphone, which is a little reflection screen, which absorbs even more sound. I think Nano has got a little bit of foam behind her microphone that again stops the reflection. Unless you are in a professional recording booth or you've actually bought a professional recording booth, you will have to make these adjustments to your home to reduce the noise, because what you don't want is any artifacts that colors your voice. You don't want that little hint of reverberation. You don't want that little hint of echo. You want it to be as clean as you possibly can.
Yep. Awesome.
And you can edit coughs out. Right, let's go here. Again, Rory down here on the bottom right, he's just got a purpose-built garden office and his beautifully acoustic booth is in there. He too has a reflection filter. He's got a TV screen above his reflection screen so he can read scripts direct from it. A music stand. He's got space for a keyboard. He's also got a window there that he can see into his office space.
He's been voicing for quite a while, though.
Yeah. He's been voicing for some time. His speciality is, I think, audiobooks, predominantly, but he does all sorts of lovely stuff. Let's go and have a look some more. Helen, top right. Helen is a very accomplished ITV continuity announcer and audiobook reader. That's her space in her basement, in her home in Derby somewhere. Again, screen to read of, keyboard, mouse, cup of coffee, pink basket for all the crap, microphone, a great space, acoustic foam around the back, same with Stuart. Beth down there has got some fantastic screens and a cloud, and I had to crop that picture because actually on top of that cloud is her cat. God knows how he got there. Stefan Cornicard, our great friend at the VoiceOver Network, this is his little shed at the end of the garden. He's using books as acoustic treatments. He's using a bit of cloth on the table. He's using the treatment of the room to absorb the acoustics. Again, Malk. He's got a whole load of acoustic curtains. He's in a shed at the end of his garden. He's got everything he needs there at his hand to work. Diane, again, fantastic. Another huge supporter of the VoiceOver Network, does some fantastic character work with us courses. She's got a nice little space there. She's got a mixer in this case. She's got her mic goes into an audio mixer that then gets processed into her computer.
Mm-hmm.
Diane, again, an audio space which is surrounded by curtains.
She's got curtains, yeah.
She has curtains because her space is in a corridor between her front door and her living room at the back of the house.
Yeah.
Leslie has got a rather grand desk with some acoustic foam. Philip's got a cupboard. Mena's got a box that is not only doubles as an acoustic space, it also stores her collection of hats. Katie at the bottom has just moved into a brand new purpose-built outhouse at her property, but that was her space before now. Vicky does a lot of localization. She's Spanish speaker, and she has a unit she hires in Wimbledon as her office. So she actually goes to work, doesn't go upstairs to the bedroom. A bit like me, I come to work across my lawn to the shed, but she goes to work in Wimbledon. Here's some booths that have been created. Cheryl under the stairs. Rachel's got something special in the garage. Charlie has got something special in his garage. Mark has got a booth in his, I think, utility room. But all these are self-constructed, but they do the job. They get the noise floor low. They make it sound a good space to record in.
So before you move on, Siggy has got a good question here that goes along the lines of all that lovely foam that you just showed. So I wanted to ask, since I've been getting different opinions on this online, but is the eggshell foam absolutely worthless? Should I just invest in acoustic foam right away? Also, is there a rule of thumb about how much foam you need? Does everything need to be covered?
Very good question. Do not use eggshell foam, be it the cardboard packaging you get out of the egg containers when they used to come loose, or the foam that looks like they could hold eggs. You need something that's got a little bit more peak and trough in it. Acoustic foam, I don't think there's anything really acoustic about foam. It is just foam that people will put on the walls to deaden the noise or to stop the reflections. Some foam is better than others. If you're going to really splash out on foam, buy foam from a company called Auralex. They specialize in producing foam for acoustic treatment.
How do you spell that?
Auralex, Auralex. Yep, that's them. And as for, do you need to cover all of it? The answer to that question is no, because you do need some hard space, preferably either on your ceiling or, let's say, below your knee level. Yeah? Okay. It helps.
Why is that, Roger?
It's just to give that little, if you go into somewhere that's completely soundproofed, it sounds odd.
Okay.
If you've got just a little bit of sort of makes the sound a little bit open, a little more airy. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. I'll bluff that one. You don't have to cover all of it. You don't have to cover all of it. And also mix materials. So you can use heavy drapes. Yeah. You could use lightweight drapes. You could potentially just make foam panels. If you go into a store like, I don't know, The Range, get a nice picture in a wooden frame with a sort of nice canvas on the front of it. Take it home, put it on the wall, is what you normally do with it. Looks fantastic until you want to replace it. They're cheap, throw them away. But if you want to put it in your booth, bring it home, put foam behind the picture, put it on your wall. It's another acoustic treatment. Yeah. So you could have, in my space here, which is all metal, I could have a picture on either side of the wall, and then I could have drapes behind me. Yeah. I could leave the wall in front of me as it is. I've got a sprung floor, so I've got several layers of floor with acoustic treatment between them. And of course, I've got a metal roof. But actually, the whole booth is metal. Why it doesn't sound as if I'm in a box is because there's hundreds of thousands of millions, and I've just dropped my tea on the floor, of holes in the, hang on one second.
Yes.
in the walls.
Another good reason to have, non-carpet on the floor. That's quite good.
These are carpet tiles, fortunately, so I can just pick them up and I shall wash them. And underneath that is a bit of wood. Underneath that is some.
Sure. But I do know, Roger, that some of those our lovely members in this demonstrations that you've got pictures there, they don't have anything above them.
No.
And so that's okay, right?
Yeah, that's perfectly okay to have nothing above you, because actually you're talking that way. You're talking down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you just need the sound around here.
Got it.
That gives you a little bit of air. That gives you a little bit of air. And I think actually, if I close this door, you might actually hear the quality of the sound change. Just ever so slightly, it becomes slightly richer and there's more of me.
Totally.
If I open the door, because I've taken a surface away and there's another wall on the other side there. Mm-hmm. So it's got a slightly different characteristic.
Yeah.
It's all about making it as quiet as possible. Right, now, where did we get to? Oh, yeah, on the road spaces. If you take your gear on the road, be prepared to be creative. So be prepared to use a whole load of pillows to create a space that you can record in discreetly, or an ironing board and a duvet. That was me in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Coffee table with, again, a duvet over the top. A luggage rack with a duvet and pillows. All of those solutions are great for recording on the road and even doing professional paid jobs on the road if you get it right.
That's right.
What I used in Atlanta, the ironing board and duvet. Simple as that. Worked a treat. Beautiful. Yeah. And as Lisa will testify, where were we? At an airport.
Yeah.
That we had planes taking off around us.
So noisy.
But my client would have never have known.
No. And I think, to be honest, like that seems like the best way to go. So you've got some headspace so you can move around just ever so slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. Mm-hmm. Creating that space so you can back off the microphone and they can hear you, or you can come in really, really close and be very, very,
Yeah.
So that's if you travel. Now,
awesome.
We were talking about traveling light. How's about this as a travel option? Mm-hmm. It is a microphone. It's a Rode NT G4. It's about 180 quid's worth of microphone. Mm-hmm. It's a little Focusrite iTrack Pre, which is about 80 quid these days. Decent pair of headphones. They are good quality Sennheiser headphones. They're about 30 quid. And an iPhone. Running twisted wave. You can record on the road with that using a pillow fort or a duvet and an ironing board and get perfectly acceptable recordings. And you could potentially do jobs with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You could do the same with the USB mic.
You can do the same with a USB mic, absolutely. But that's, I mean, seriously, that little red box there. I'm going to do this again. Sorry, I've disappeared. Hang on.
Yep. I see your question there, Siggy. The fan on the laptop didn't ruin the recording. One question there in regards to, I think, previous picture, the fan on the laptop didn't ruin the recording.
I think most voiceover artists are very canny when they buy a laptop. They buy a laptop that is almost as silent as they possibly can. The thing, if you're going to have a laptop, you buy a laptop that is fast, it's got good memory, and it has a solid state hard drive on it, which means there's no moving parts for the hard drive. Having a solid state hard drive also speeds up your machine dramatically. And if you have a solid state drive and you have a fast processor with lots of memory in it, the likelihood of the fan coming into play is almost nil, unless you're doing some really, really heavy rendering of audio files, in which case you have already recorded them and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
do the job first.
Yeah. The Apple MacBook Air does not have a fan in it.
No.
Absolutely quiet. That's why I take it everywhere I go. And going back to that picture, top right, that's my setup. So ATH headphones, NTG2 microphone as opposed to the 4 I've just shown you. A little Audient ID4 interface, MacBook Air running Adobe Audition.
Nice.
Works a treat. Whoops, let's go the other way, shall we? Let's see this again.
Dun, dun, dun.
Traveling light, so we know about that.
Yeah.
And this, for those of you who are interested, is where I am currently standing in my office in the garden. That is my desk outside with speakers, codec, MacBook, printer, you name it, it's got it.
Yeah.
And like the picture right at the front, this is where I am actually right now. Stood in front of my microphone, watching a screen in front of me with a lectern, keyboards, mouse, headphone amps, and everything else. So this is my quiet space. Yeah, I've worked quite hard for this, so you know,
yes,
I'm entitled. Yes. Oh, by the way, the small little audio interface I have, there it is. Look how small that is.
Mm-hmm.
It is tiny. That knob there is about the size of a pound coin.
Okay.
So yeah, brilliant.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Very nice.
Right. And one last thing. Mm-hmm. You don't have to spend a fortune on home studio equipment. We have been through the 1,300 quid audio interface, the £2,000 microphone, the £200 pair of headphones, 600 quid for audio software, bit of this, bit of that, and bit of the other. You can, realistically, if you haven't bought kit yet and you're thinking about it, you can buy this kit. So this is a Scarlett, this is a Focusrite. They're a partner of the VoiceOver Network, so you can get a discount on this if you're a VoiceOver Network member. Mm-hmm. It's a 2i2. It's their microphone. Excuse me. It's their studio microphone, which is much better quality than it has been. It's been re-engineered. It's a nice little mic. They've re-engineered their headphones as well. You get the cables to plug the mic into the interface. You get the USB interface to plug into your computer. And if you download Audacity for free off the internet, that little kit there is only going to cost you £250 in total. If you have about, I don't know, 15% discount from VoiceOver Network, maybe even 20%, that's a pretty good deal to go with. So you don't have to spend a fortune on VoiceOver kit. It just depends on where you are in your journey as a voiceover artist and what you are doing, because all of this depends also on the areas you work in, what you do. So I tend to do a lot of commercial work. So I do voiceovers for videos, for corporate banks, for, you know, you name it. At the moment, I've been doing a heck of a lot of stuff with regard of engineering. You know, I know more about print mills and printing presses and turning mills and health and safety in factories and other bits of it. That's the sort of stuff I do. I don't do the, you know, come to Tesco's or, you know, those sorts of things. Every little bit helps. I don't tend to do a lot of that at all. I tend to do stuff that's a little more, I say a little more engaging. It's all engaging at the end of the day and it all pays the bills. But you don't have to necessarily spend a fortune on a home studio. So
you get this box at home.
Yeah.
And you can literally plug it in, get started within a fairly quick amount of time. Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It is almost idiot-proof. The guys at Focusrite are great. They provide a package that you just take it out of the box, plug it all together. The only additional things you're going to need for that is, most people know that anyway, one of these. Mm-hmm. Microphone stands, varying sizes, possibly one of these if you pop a lot when you're talking.
Yes.
As you can see, I don't have one, but then I've spent a long time knowing how to talk into one of these things. I do use it occasionally, particularly if I have someone come in and use the studio, because I don't want them ruining my microphone.
Yes, that's right. Then a quick question. Let me see if Sig is asking the same thing. Are there any good places to learn more about the building aspect of the booth or to get an expert's opinion?
There are a number of companies that you can go to that will deal with building acoustic spaces. You can just ring them up. The best people to speak to if you are going to really go to town and do an acoustic space is a radio station builder. because the way they build it, it's layers and layers and layers. So you start off with a room, let's say 10 foot by 10 foot. By the time you've finished, it's 9 foot by 9 foot, because they've put isolation panels in, they've put acoustic panels in, they've put hard and soft surfaces in, they've put fabric in, they've put wooden surrounds in, all your electrics go in, and then you have a space in which you can work. Search the internet. There are loads of stuff on YouTube about building studios and building booths. We're concerned about vocal performance. A lot of booth builders are building booths because they're musicians, so they want to get even more noise. They actually want to isolate themselves from the outside world, as opposed to the outside world isolating themselves in. We don't want outside noise getting in, and musicians don't want their noise inside getting out. And if you get a good booth, you can do both. Yeah.
And two of our other partners as well is Vocal Booth To Go and Studio Bricks, Siggy. So if you're interested in that as well, let us, just send me an email and we can send you more information about those. Also, one more question just to cover for the folks who are going to watch this back. There are places where they can go and listen. You can test out microphones, but you've got to search for it. They're not everywhere.
I would say go to Studios. I've got to be right here. Studio Spares. My stock response would be go to Studio Spares in North London because they've got a microphone booth. However, they moved to Luton 6 months ago.
Okay.
But Studio Spares are quite good. If you've got a good music store close to you, they will normally have a range of microphones. I know that PMT,
you should do,
Pro Music Technology, they're a chain across the country. They've just opened a brand new store in Birmingham. They have one here in Norwich, which is not too far away from me. And I know that they have, if I was to go in there this afternoon or this evening, I know that they'd have the Aston mics on display. The Aston was one of the mics I had on the condenser list.
Great.
Have some other mics as well. So you can just play. They'll actually have, more often or not, a little recording booth and recording studio set up with lots of equipment, lots of guitars, lots of bits and pieces, and they'll have microphones. You can sit and play. The one thing about buying
singers.
The one thing about buying a microphone, if you buy a microphone, you might have a clause in the purchase agreement you can't return it because you've used it. And the primary reason for that is because you will have stood in front of the microphone and you would have been spitting at it.
But the best way.
It's just one of the downsides, really,
exactly.
Of having the microphone. But in some instances, they will let you try and play. Or the other way people can do it is if they know a decent studio that's near to them. Ask them if you could come in when they're quiet, when they're not working, and test their microphones that they have for use there.
Nice.
Yeah?
Yeah. Why not? There's no harm in asking.
No harm in asking at all. In fact, that's a good salutary tale because one of our members some time ago bought one of these mics, TLM 103, off of eBay for about 500 quid, if I remember rightly. It was packaged up to him. He was sent it. He got it. He unpacked it, plugged it in, and then he rang me. And he said, does this sound like a TLM 103? So I said, I don't know. Send me some audio. He sent me some audio, and it wasn't particularly good.
Oh.
Yeah? And he concluded that he either needed to send it back to the person he'd purchased it from for a refund, but they were claiming that the mic was brand new and had never been used.
Of course.
Although there were signs to say otherwise. Or, which is what he did do, he sent it to Sennheiser-Neumann, they're the same company, Sennheiser-Neumann, to the service centre in Reading, who then sent it back saying, the capsule has degraded, the electronics have been tinkered with, it's obviously had some sort of damage at some point.
No.
This microphone is not worth repairing. So he sent it back to the person with their assessment and he got his money back, fortunately. But in the interim period, he went down the road to his local recording studio and tested out microphones. And instead of outlay, making a financial outlay of £800 to £1,000 for a TLM 103. He spent, I think, about £400 on a completely different microphone that just suits his voice down to a T.
And that's it, isn't it? It comes down to what suits your voice.
Yeah.
I mean,
and going back to the beginning, right at the head of the program, we were talking about my career, and I said that I've been working in radio for a very long time. Mm-hmm. When you started working in radio, the only microphone you ever had in front of you had a Neumann badge on it. Yeah? Mm-hmm. It had a little triangle, depending on the color of it, depending on what type of mic it was. Mm-hmm. Most of the microphones you ever got in front of in a radio studio was a Neumann. So I have spent my entire life talking into a Neumann. With one exception, I spent 5 years at BBC Radio Suffolk, who had a horrendous Shaw microphone, the microphone Shaw, and it was terrible. Absolutely.
Oh, no.
So when I had my own studio, which is now coming up to its 12th year or something like that, I had a Neumann in it. So this was about at least 12 years old. So I wouldn't change it for the world. I have other microphones which I use for different things, but when it comes to doing voiceover work, this is the one. It never comes out of the cradle here. That's why I've got other microphone stands, because this one never moves. It just stays there.
Awesome. Very nice. And one more quick question. How much does a stand usually cost? Because you said that if you...
goodness. Great. Actually, these are cheap as chips, really.
Okay.
He says. This one is a Koenig & Meyer one, K&M. They are to microphone stands as Neumann is to microphones. Okay. But this microphone stand will cost you maybe £35, which is not a lot, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Because they make so many of them. If you buy something from a company called Stag, STAGG, you can no doubt pick it up for about 10, 15 quid, something like that. Nice. It's just got to be sturdy enough and robust enough to carry the weight of this, because this is not a light microphone, and that's why it's on an angle arm. You maybe can't see that. You see that? There we are. Yeah. Angle arm, because it's a counterbalance thing. This is thing, and you can actually put bags of weights on the other end to balance it out if need be.
Nice.
I've just ruined my camera shot, haven't I? Yes.
There he is.
There we are, see? So yeah, and that's the other thing. Of course, I've got a screen in here so I can see what's happening. I've got a camera on the top. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see me. So yeah, the stands are cheap as chips, really, and. Cool. Sometimes you will buy a microphone and it will just be the body of the microphone, so just the bit here. So if you need to have a spider mount or some sort of mount, that needs to be an additional cost. So this microphone is about £800. Spider mount for it is about £250. So when I mentioned £1,000, that's what it is connected together. Yeah.
Sure.
But that means that I can bang the microphone and you only hear a light thud. Yeah. If I bang the microphone, you hear a bit more.
Right. Well, yeah, definitely. But I mean, that's the aspiring mic. Thank you, Roger. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So much information.
Clear the tea off the floor now.
Yeah, I'm surprised the doggies haven't been coming in. So
no.
Great. So much information, so much for everyone to work with. So many great ideas and ways to get going. So wonderful. Thanks, Siggy, for all the great questions. For those who were able to tune in, we had a good time today. If you have any questions, remember to email myself or Rachel. And this week again is all about home studios. So there's going to be a lot more information for you guys to watch and got to do your own investigations now and try to find out what's best for you. So great. All right, Roger. So that'll do it for today. Thanks again.
That's all right. My pleasure. If anyone wants to find me, I'm Roger Woods VO on web, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything else you possibly find. You can find me anyway.
That's it. I just put it in the chat box. Great, Roger. So we'll catch up with you later.
Yeah,
And
look forward to it.
sounds good. Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.